Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bill Naaman's Bogus Hangout. We have a small list of guests today, and Steve is joining us right now. Uh, we're going to have everybody introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about how they got into SEO. Debbie, would you start, please?
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Bill. I get to be number one. Oh, that's so exciting. I, I came from SEO from a marketing background. I started out in print advertising when I got out of school from marketing. And I went from print advertising into television, from television into the web by the mid 90s, which so dates me. And then,
You,
and
you
that
can
was
you can introduce yourself too.
Oh, I'm Deborah Norton, and I am the founder of Bravo Interactive Media. And I am really active on Twitter at bravomedia1.com, Bravo Media One. And I also am an instructor with the University of Hartford and their Entrepreneurial Center and Barney School of Business. I'm their digital marketing instructor. So I've taught two classes this week, one on landing page optimization and one on SEO. So
So you teach people about SEO at school.
at the university to entrepreneurs and small business owners, this is funded by SBC. It's a part of the university. Doc actually taught a class with me to the faculty of
Are you
the
are you are you
university.
doing are you doing this live or are you doing this on Zoom?
We do it live. And Doc had the pleasure. Come on, Doc, pep in.
Yeah, I'm Doc Sheldon of Intrinsic Value SEO and Web Narwhal and Deep SEO Conference and wherever I can dip my toes in the water. Yeah, Deb and I worked together on a course for the faculty over at University of Hartford. That was fun. And I got into this business about 19 years ago. I got tired of being on the road all the time. I was a business management consultant, and I was on the road 6 months out of the year, so I decided that had to end because I had a 13-year-old daughter, and Daddy needed to be home to bury the young pretenders. So I got into this. I decided I'd do something online, and at first I dove into content, and I heard about this thing called SEO copywriting. I'd never heard of SEO before. Started reading about it and listening to various forum chats and whatnot, and thought it was interesting as the dickens. So I kind of migrated in that direction. I still have the content agency, but I migrated more towards the SEO side. And since then, I have been focused primarily on the technical SEO aspect. And Steve, you're up.
Steve Grinzer with Deep SEO Conference. I'm only going to list one today. Let's see, I started building websites back in the mid 90s, back when it was still go down to the store and buy internet in a box to get the proper drivers for your Windows 3.1 machine. And when I started, we didn't even have search engines. And so we were building websites and finding ways to drive traffic to them. And then search engines showed up, and we just, I just kept evolving with that from day one. I just more interested in how to drive traffic than how to rank in search engines. And then search engines started, making the rules that all the
Do you
things that we used to do to drive traffic were now illegal.
Do you remember the big, thick phone book sized books that had
Yeah.
lists of directories and
Mm-hmm.
websites?
I've got one of those books out in a box right now. I just need to find it. Oh yeah, that was the internet phone book. That was awesome. But yeah, I mean, there were so many things we did to drive traffic back then that, especially when Google showed up,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, well, these things here that you've been doing all along, we don't like them because they impact our algorithm in ways we can't control. So you need to stop doing them. And my opinion of Google has not changed since that day.
My name is Bill Slosky. I'm I write the blog SEO by the Scene. I'm the director of SEO research for Go Fish Digital. One of the first links that I built to the first website, I was working as an in-house SEO, was a Polish classified site. And I got a couple of customers for my first client who were sustaining customers. They were repeat business. They created new corporations every week, sometimes 7 or 8 a week. And for a company just starting out, that was great business. Get 10 to 20 new customers a week. It was amazing work. It was a good link. It was most people. It had no domain authority. It had very little page rank. It worked. You get the right people to the right business at the right time. So one of the other resources I used when I first started out was I had a book on Learn HTML in 2 weeks. I had another book from a guy named Roger C. Parker, which was on marketing with the web. It wasn't calling itself SEO, but it talked about marketing. And I applied the stuff. I learned from it. I did once upon a time come across a forum filled with SEOs, and they were having an argument over what was the perfect percentage of word density to have your keyword on a page. And I just backed away slowly without saying a word and got out of there and forgot the address. I can't hear you, Doc. Are you muted?
There are probably some locations on the internet where that same argument still occurs.
I suspect there are.
I remember back when we used to have things like web rings. They were the most amazing thing in the world because all the websites were related to each other. They all worked together to try to drive more traffic. And you could click through the ring one after another, or you could skip 5 or random.
Man, my site on Angel Fire had a web ring.
Yeah.
So did
And
mine.
it made life, I mean, in my opinion, the results of those are now starting to be consistently better than what I'm finding on search engines. I mean, the big thing was if somebody ran a good web ring, they didn't just let anybody in. You actually had to have a decent website as judged by an actual real-life human being.
That's what I was just going to say about Moz. Do you remember DeMoz? Where a human would go through and look at your site and see if you had the right credentials to the entity. And that's what DeMoz did for years.
Do you remember shopping malls on the web?
Yeah.
People would gather together and have a joint website where they would have a mall. They would each have a room and they would offer things on their page.
I wish I knew about that. I didn't go to the mall. I was too busy hustling new business. I don't know. I never made it to a mall.
These were like neighborhoods or, a bunch of people who knew each other.
That's
They
great.
would join in together and create a site and each have their own page and offer things. And it's sort of like antique shops these days.
I built something like that. Oh, good Lord. It probably been around 2000-ish for it was an old brewery.
Yeah.
That had been converted into shopping. And so you went to their website and it was basically an image map of the building. And you could click into each different shop, and then each shop had its own little area, and none of them had websites. They didn't know what they were, The only reason I even built a site to begin with is because I had an office in the building and thought, hey, this would be fun to do.
Yeah.
And then we started driving traffic, and people were getting sales, and they're like, oh, maybe I should have a website. It's like, oh, maybe you should.
Yeah, that'll never catch on.
It's just a passing fad.
Yeah, it's a flash in the pan.
We have sites like Amazon and eBay these days. They're now marketplaces where they are like one website with many owners.
Absolutely. The portal issues I see it like they're portals, and that kind of started with eBay being a portal to sell stuff, and opportunities like Yahoo was a portal. um, Google chose kind of to take a different direction than that, but having these portals available. Craigslist, for all intensive purposes, is a portal of how to sell your stuff, how to
I use Craigslist most effectively to get rid of stuff.
get rid
Like
of stuff. I need to get rid of
like
stuff.
I was moving. I had a lawnmower that I hadn't sold. I put it up for free on Craigslist. It was a lawn curb alert. Took
How
a
great
picture
is
of
that?
took a picture of my uh, lawnmower. Said it's at this address. First one to get it wins. Take it away. It works fine. I
I've
had
heard
an
a lot of that.
exercise bike I got rid of like that too.
I've been hearing Facebook Marketplace works really good local. I'm not on Facebook, so I can't really tell about that, but I've heard it
Yeah.
is effective. But it is, it is still the wild, wild web. And how do you want to meet somebody to sell your, table or whatever? It's kind of funny. It's still an interesting avenue. So there's
Well,
lots of stuff from the past that are still kind of lingering on and have evolved.
that's like for us when we rent out our apartment. When a tenant leaves, we always rent it via Craigslist,
Craigslist.
and very rarely does it take more than 3 or 4 days before we've got somebody wanting to see it. It moves fast.
Me too. That's amazing.
Before I bought the house I'm in, I was a renter, and I was renting through Craigslist. It was a great place to find places.
Hmm.
I'm a landlord, so yeah. Craigslist is one of them. There's some of them are really evolved now in the Northeast. Is Zillow's pretty strong here. They're actually buying up properties, which is really
Yeah.
strange and kind of like a mystic of the unknown. But yeah, there are great avenues. I had in the Northeast alone, I'm in Connecticut, so I'm halfway between New York and Boston. So it's a great ideal spot. And a lot of people who have moved from COVID kind of and can work digitally have like kind of coming into this area. And it's nice because we can, I forgot where I was going with this, but yeah, I mean, we
So
all.
people are moving out of the city and into Connecticut.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And so I had my apartment. My apartment was rented in less than 3 days. So I have an apartment here in Connecticut, and it went on the market on October 1st, and October 3rd. It was already taken with like background checks and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, the market is different across the U.S. as we know it, and I love your neck of the woods. It's beautiful. I don't know where Steve is from.
Steve's eating lunch right now,
Sorry.
but I'm in the middle of Tennessee between Nashville and Memphis,
Awesome.
middle of nowhere.
Awesome.
And the town I live in is Carlsbad, which is North County, San Diego, and it's got a lot of people who work on the web.
You guys, sorry
They
about
they work from home. They work on the web.
Did any specific company lure you down there?
No,
No. Okay. Oh my goodness.
I wanted to live close to the beach.
I love the beach. We both love the beach. We both love the beach. The beach in the warm weather is amazing. I did a really quick, short stint down in La Jolla, and
Yeah.
also in the Bay Area when I was kind of like in the early 2000s doing some consulting, and the Bay was amazing. I kind of did a temporary job there, and then I did like the movie Sideways and drove all the way down to San Diego, for which I was staying in La Jolla. And I was in like Hotel La Jolla, which was like Hotel California, and I was there for.
There's a Disney show now that's based in La Jolla.
Oh my
It's
gosh!
on Disney Plus.
I'll have to check it out. La Jolla was beautiful and inexpensive and beautiful, and
Yeah.
lots of beautiful beaches, but very expensive, as I recall.
My
And
my nephew's family lived there for a while.
I think that's such an interesting time with the web because we were being flown around to do projects. We were being flown to consult. We were being flown. At least I was doing that, and that was amazing because people didn't have our expertise, and so they would bring us in, and you were doing something. I mean, that's how my career kind of went when I started out with consulting, was that one client led to the next client, which led to the next. And God bless, they started with amazing brands that I started to work with. So right out
Debbie,
of the starting gate.
Debbie, we had Thomas join us. Why don't we ask him?
Hi.
Hi guys.
Thomas, will you introduce yourself and tell us how you get into SEO?
My name is Thomas Sickle. I'm founder of Blueprint Marketing, and I was doing chemical engineering and manufacturing, and got into search engine optimization from just kind of playing around with tech and really falling in love with it. It came easily to me, and I found it extremely enjoyable. So I changed a lot of. I had a business that manufactured cardboard paper towel roll inserts, the larger ones for room material. I walked away from that in order to do this, and so far it's been a great choice. I really love it, and now I'm on the board of a few companies, and I also, this is like, working with founders and CEOs of other companies and figuring out the best way to get everything, not just their sites ranked, but work with their business is the most exciting part of it.
So you were in chemical engineering. You were also in plastics.
Yes, plastics, MTI Polyx Corporation. So I have a patent for a plastic that has a higher attraction coefficient when wet than when dry. And basically it's a TPO, temperature sensitive polyolefin, that for some reason Wikipedia said you couldn't put it through a blow and film extruder. You can. It just looks like the surface of the moon when you get it out, and it has a very unique property in that when it's wet, most plastics, like a slip and slide, it has a higher traction coefficient. So a lot of maritime use, as well as just safety use in general, putting it down where contractors are going to be walking, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to chat sometime, Thomas, because I spent a few years working in plastics, in blow molding and injection molding. I didn't realize you had a background in plastics.
Yeah,
My father did too. I think
yeah.
Thomas has heard of him.
Yeah, your dad. It was when Reifenhauser was purchased by Kiefel. Your father. I was working with William and Hollister, and your dad was doing something with Reifenhauser at the time, and we were doing something with Reifenhauser. So it was really interesting. It was such a small world, and I know that he knows Mike Sullivan very well, who's now the person running MTI Polyx. But your dad is a legend in blow molding, and I mean the big wheel and all sorts of incredible creations. He really set the bar very high, and I'm in blown film extrusion, so it's more like a plastic bag than an actual object that you can solid object.
It's interesting. We've all heard the old 6 degrees theory about everybody is only 6 places away from everybody else.
Kevin Bacon.
And I wonder if the internet has lessened that number somewhat now, if it's 5 or 4. I suspect that it has.
I from what I understand, I think from leaked documents from the NSA, it's something like 3 people. Or it's only 3 steps to connect everyone, pretty much.
That kind of makes sense,
Yeah, I mean, if you look at everyone, imagine everyone's contacts if you're dragging them all, and then just look at LinkedIn, and everyone on LinkedIn. It seems like I barely ever see a 3-degree separation on there anymore, and um, uh, it's in 6 degrees. You imagine 6 degrees on LinkedIn, you'd be everyone. It'd be everybody. The whole thing would be full. But I bet they have some unique data on this. It would be probably an interesting place to look
Yeah.
because unless you're living in a shack with no electricity, trying to stay off the
Throw me in
grid.
that briar patch.
No, I'm not saying like Timothy McVeigh might not be connected to a lot of people, but before his what he did, but like I think the average person, yeah, and I think as younger people growing up being connected to the web, wow, I can't imagine they're going to be too far apart from each other. And they're going to be able to watch us as kids and see what their parents were actually really like, which is, imagine that. That'd be incredible. I can see pictures of my parents, but not like watch them speak or do any, I only remember what I remember them when I was younger, and that's not the same thing. So I think that there's going to be a lot less privacy, and there's going to be it's just going to be a either better or much worse world, but I think it's probably better. So that's how I got into search, is just a love of technology, and it came very easily. And yeah, so I was
Can I
also
ask
able.
a question? I'm so sorry.
Absolutely, of course. No, go ahead.
No, and Thomas, we've never met before, and it's a pleasure meeting you here. And thank you for sharing that.
Pleasure meeting you too, Debbie.
And I wanted to know, you said plastics. Are you doing SEO for a company that produces plastics, or are you?
I had been, yeah, absolutely. MTI Polyx, I did the search for that. It's a B2B company where it basically, there's only 212 companies like it that actually do that type of thing. So they, most of the purchasers are roofing material companies and or plastics or tape companies, things like that. So they all, once you get the accounts, they know each other. The sales team, it's such a small world in that area that we have increased the web presence dramatically on that site. But I wouldn't say I wouldn't hold it up as like it's a great piece of work, because it's just being B2B in that type of arena. It doesn't, having a nice looking site counts, but there's just not a lot of we found out when we gave it more traction on Google, in fact, that we got more cuckoos that thought it could do. They were like, I want a bag of plastic. We're like, one bag of, okay, no, we got a lot of that. So they asked to, they didn't read apparently anything on the site what we did, but we get a lot of strange requests. Yeah, no, so I'm not trying to deter anyone from that type of search. It should definitely be done, and UX is extremely important, and having people to search you when they search your name. But blow molding, you guys have, I mean, that's stuff where you can actually see it used in much more common products, day-to-day, like household.
Sure.
So, Debbie, how did you already answer, or how did you get into search, or did you already did that?
I gave the big overview, but just as the quick snippet, I'm a digital marketing consultant. I'm based out of Chester, Connecticut, and I've been consulting as Bravo Interactive Media since 2008 on my own. And I also teach at the University of Hartford digital marketing classes to entrepreneurs. So that's the work that I'm doing right now, and it's been terrific. So pleasure meeting you.
Fantastic. It's a pleasure meeting you too. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think I saw you on Twitter originally talking about the show, and then it's nice to see you on here.
Pleasure's mine.
So there aren't a lot of colleges that offer SEO classes. There are some specifically, like University of California, UC Davis has classes that are specifically about SEO. There's
That's
some other
cool.
ones. Yeah.
I took some marketing courses and some CS classes, and I can tell you, when I was doing undergrad at Rollins before I went to Yale, they were terrible. The guy was teaching stuff that was 3 years old, and it wasn't really focused on marketing as much as it was focused on tech. And the teacher was way behind the we were doing Microsoft 2020 Access. It was just worthless, in my opinion. But that's just my 2 cents on that. But I think that if someone did the course right on search, that would be a great thing.
I know that there's a college in Toronto that is getting ready to launch a course on SEO. I'm doing their course review as a third-party expert on that, and they're going to be launching it in 2022. It seems to be something that is getting more attention with more colleges and universities, and I think that's good, because it's not your plain Jane marketing courses don't cover it because the internet's
Right.
different. It's just different. It's a different environment entirely. It's like going from print to radio. Yeah, it's marketing, but the media is entirely different, and there's
Exactly.
so much to understand about it. So it's encouraging to see that.
It is. I'm actually really excited to hear that because I, I think that online learning, especially because of COVID and just the way that technology's evolved, is going to allow for a lot of kids, not just online, but in classrooms as well, to really be able to imagine what you're going to be able to do today. You'll have people be able to audit a site in real time on their computers as homework, come in, present to the teacher. That'd be awesome to see how they put together an audit. That would be a great project that I would, we couldn't have done back when I was an undergrad because, well, we had computers, but basically I couldn't imagine this professor actually asking us to do that. But I think now, as I think the CEO of Morgan Stanley brought up SEO as like one of the next big generational leaps, is showing why AI won't take our jobs away. That this is something that exists that didn't exist 20 years ago or 30 years ago, to be honest. So, yeah, that's fantastic.
It's still it's the art of SEO. There's the science of SEO, and Bill has backed me up with this one before on Twitter, because it is both art and science. The art is the front end, the user end, the meeting the expectation of the visitor, having them come in and meet the right expectation. And then there's the technical aspect, which is the science of SEO. And the two must meld together. And long ago, I chose not to code because I don't need to learn every code. I don't want to code. Coding's not my jam. But getting to the user and getting to the end user and getting their conversion and knowing where it's hiccuping from a technical standpoint, that's my jam.
Yeah.
So that's the way I've been able to work for some big brands and do some big tech audits, because of knowing, not that I understand fully how to write, big code, but I can understand where it's hiccuping and hope to God we can figure out why. So
I spent about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I spend a lot more time on the PPC side of things these days. And I spent about 45 minutes to an hour with several official Google PPC reps that are higher up in the food chain than just the guys that call you on the phone, trying to explain to them how their algorithm and automatically assigned audiences are so terrible for different types of markets. And I was trying to explain entities to them and how, for example, people have heard me talk about this on our show before, that I've got clients that are involved in home services, and their algorithm flags them as home sales, which is a whole completely different audience and a different set of rules, and trying to convince them that these are very different things. And if you go ahead and say, yes, that's my audience, just to make the error messages go away, your account's going to go to garbage, because Google is now going to target the wrong audience,
Very
even
true.
though it's the exact same keywords.
You're talking about like plumbers and people like that coming to the house to perform a service, where it's
Well,
like a home instead of home buying.
Yeah, with that or home health care or home nursing home nursing's another one that's just, you've combined two different protected classes, medical and housing.
Yeah.
And it was like these guys who were mid-level management at Google had never even considered these things.
Yeah.
It's as if they've never had jobs before.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And that goes back to my whole the growth of a Googler is they start at a Montessori school, then they go to a private high school, then they go to an Ivy League university, then they go straight to university or go to Google, and they have never once been in the real world.
And as they go to work at Google every day, they have dry cleaners, they have kitchens.
Exactly.
They never have to leave the office to get stuff done.
Yeah.
They're totally insulated from the real world. Yeah.
They have
It's
no
a
idea what the real world was. But
absolutely fantastic work environment for them. But
But when we got talking about entities, I actually suggested they reach out to Bill. It's like, because you're at least reasonably close to them, it's like, you people really need to have some real world people come in and explain to you how your stuff works. Because
or more succinctly, doesn't work.
Or doesn't work because it's causing so much drama. And I mean, we've got one client, they actually had an alert on their ads page that said they were no longer able to create campaigns because they had not accepted the terms of being a home seller. And it's like, they don't sell homes.
They don't sell homes, they'll never sell homes.
And
it's realistic.
There are people who do stuff like visit people's homes for physical therapy.
Mm-hmm.
They're providing home services. They're not selling homes.
There are people that do home maintenance and home repairs, and
You can't tell from my fantastic physique, but I actually had a person who did home workouts. They came from my house to do training, and they would be a personal, home trainer that goes to your house. Not that it shows at all, but there's a million things where everyone's and Google just places it. That's a real big problem.
I remember we used to play a game with it, everybody's like, well, as long as it's on a related topic, then it'll help. And it's like, you understand that this is a game that I can play very well. And I can make one thing related to something else, usually in just one step.
Yep.
And it's like, give me a topic and I'll give me two topics and I'll explain how I can make these two relate to each other in a way that the algorithm will never understand, but makes perfect sense.
Yeah. That's the problem, right?
And I get what they're trying to do, but I firmly believe no one there knows how it works anymore. There might be 100 people trying to understand it, but no one person can tell you how that algorithm works ever again.
And I don't even think that would be fair. I mean, I think it's gotten beyond out of the realm of anybody knowing exactly what's happening. But from a search standpoint, I mean, we have people that speak on search. I mean, Danny Sullivan joined it, Google for that specific reason. He was already made it in the search marketing expos. But going to Google was to say, hey, Google, some of this stuff is driving us as marketers nuts. And I think Google's gotten a little better with that in regards to that aspect, with John Muir being available, Martin Spitt being available. These folks are making themselves available online, and they don't turn anybody away, and they have good forums. But how does the whole algorithm work? How does Google Scholar work? How does each of the entities work? Google business profiles, all connected. So they're all interconnected in different ways, but nobody knows it all. Isn't that the truth?
Well, maybe I'm jaded. In fact, I'm sure I'm jaded, but I think that a lot of times guys like, even back in his day, Matt Cutts and then John Mew and Martin, they quite probably, in my opinion, probably get faced with the type of response like stay in your lane. That's very interesting, but this is my department, or you're supposed to be an interface, you're not supposed to come tell me how to do my job. That sort of attitude Probably not as bluntly stated, but I kind of imagine that they face that sometimes, and it's probably frustrating for them.
I know
Because-
Matt used to
Oh,
have
yeah.
problems with search quality because the Google AdSense people were telling people how to lay out their pages to get more ad clicks, while the search quality people were saying setting up your web pages like this will cause you problems with SEO because you get ads above the fold. And
Yep.
so you've got two divisions within Google 100% opposed to each other. Who do you listen to?
It's really funny to see that the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing at Google. It's like the yin and the yang over there with paid versus organic.
Mhm.
To be fair, though,
No.
any organization that huge
Yeah,
is going to eventually suffer that sort of internal problem. And to me, it's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I've worked in companies that only had 1,000 employees that were already inundated with that kind of problem. To get to where they've got over 50,000 and are still able to be fairly functional is amazing. So
absolutely.
somebody's making some effort to overcome that, and they're being at least partially successful at it. Yeah. It's an uphill battle. It's got to be a real struggle when you get that. I mean, you've got departments within Google that have thousands of people in them scattered around the globe, trying to establish and maintain a coherent policy within a department like that, that's located in 11 different countries. Got to be, a real challenge.
Oh yeah, but like Google's search team is relatively tiny.
The search
but
team,
I-
yeah.
Yeah, but I agree with you completely. Like, there's got to be so much overview and like just exactly what you're talking about. Stay out of my lane, or this isn't exactly what we need you focused
thing-
on right now. or
So
it's
the
not
thing is,
important to
the
higher
guys,
ups.
the guys in search that are saying to the engineers who write the algos, are they saying we need your algorithm to determine this, or is the engineering team telling the folks in search this is what our algorithm will tell you, and you got to live with that, or is there a marriage, a halfway point between the two? Who knows? Sometimes you got the guy in the back seat driving the bus.
Oh yeah. It's like when you go into a big company and you see the content team and the search team not speaking to each other. You're like, what's going on? And then, once that's corrected, miracles can happen. But at the same time, the same thing can happen with any large business. If I guess they're just considered minor things in terms of issues, but they're affecting so many websites out there that what Google considers minor and what I guess it means so much to the business owner to be correctly categorized that, and if you're thinking about how many businesses are outside of Google's categories, there's no perfect category. There's sometimes, it's very rare. Like if you're a dentist, you've got that. But like if you're, it's very rare that it'll actually talk about your exactly what your business does.
Well, like for instance, looking at a different target, let's look at Facebook. They get a lot of flack because their algorithms are, I posted one this morning or yesterday of a warning I got last year that they killed one of my comments when somebody showed a picture of their Thanksgiving dinner, and I said, that looks delicious. And their algorithm trashed my comment as outside of their guidelines. Okay? That looked delicious was apparently subversive. Okay, so that sort of thing happens all the time on Facebook. But at the end of the day, the financial impact to Facebook isn't even worth mention.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they snicker about it at the water fountain. It doesn't matter to them. But that sort of thing builds waves of resentment and resistance and customer service issues on many different fronts. Any large organization is going to see that. Google sees it. Again, little things that have no impact whatsoever to their bottom line or a negligible impact, but they affect their reputation, their popularity, their market share, and down the road.
Facebook is definitely seeing that happen now with all the hacks and
Yeah.
just the general dislike of their policy, the way they've treated women and all sorts of bad actors in Facebook, just even at the top levels, letting it happen. But I don't unfortunately see people removing themselves from Facebook yet until it happens to them personally. Like my brother got hacked on Facebook and still can't get back into his account after sending his driver's license as proof, and they said that's not enough proof, and even though that's what they asked for. That type of stuff is pretty frustrating, I imagine. So he created a new account, and I saw one of my friends was hacked the other day, but he still had control of his account, luckily. However, I think that the big stuff is, if you're a young lady and you're on Instagram and they're clearly showing things that are not normal lives, like people show their best. They never in my life have I seen someone post something on Instagram where like, it's the worst day of my life. I just ran over my dog and I haven't combed my hair, and that's real life. People, they only share the very top of the top on there, and people are transfixed into thinking that this is what every minute of their life is like, and it's just not. And Facebook knows that, and the algorithm knows it's clickbait basically. But it has a much more sinister undertone for society, unfortunately.
Well, and they're not alone. I mean, look at PayPal. PayPal just jumped their domestic interest or fee rate from 2.9 to 3.49%. Okay, you've all heard the stories of somebody who had $30,000 frozen in their account, and 2 years later they still can't get it cut loose.
Oh yeah.
But at the end of the day, usage of PayPal continues to rise
Yeah.
because it's convenient. So eventually stuff like that might come back and bite them in the back, but companies survive an awful lot of that if they're still providing some value. Google provides value, tremendous value.
Yeah.
But they also provide headaches, tremendous headaches.
I mean, I think Stripe blew up because PayPal didn't. If PayPal didn't have as many faults, Stripe wouldn't exist as big as it is. And some of the other payment systems that are out there, they just became more convenient and a lot more. They wouldn't detain your money like you're talking about the way PayPal would, and give you just weird replies as to why. I think that, but PayPal was also hooked to. I think they still are hooked to eBay, right? So that was probably their golden ticket.
Yeah, they're hooked to
Yeah.
eBay. Stripe made it easy for people to attach devices to phones to accept credit cards.
Yep.
And Square too.
Yeah.
Who here does that with their cell phone? That taps their phone and pays for stuff? Who here? Raise your
I-
hand if you do it.
I tapped
I have-
the. That's much safer, by the way. If you tap when you're checking out, or are you talking about having to swipe? Are you talking about swiping
Just
the
go
card?
and tap with the phone and it's paid for.
I don't
tap at, like, the
with
register.
my phone, but I do tap with my card.
That
I
you can do too.
tap the chip.
The gas station down at the end of the road finally started taking credit cards.
They just took cash. I
Yep.
love it. Now, Bill,
Gotta love rural living, right?
how are you doing it with your phone?
I'm not using my phone to pay for things. I'm using cards to pay, but I'm using chips on the card to tap.
Smart
You
card.
should.
Smart cards.
Smart
From a-
cards.
Yeah, the chip is. Yeah, when the chip's embedded in the card.
The chip's
Yeah,
embedded
have
in
a
the
chip.
card. Yeah.
It's from the bank, but then there's the other chip. There's other chips like with Coinbase, actually lets you buy crypto. Once you make you put the money on the card, you buy your goods and services, and you get some crypto for it. So
Yep.
there's so many things out there right now that are happening that are new on the web, and we don't, trying to
But
pull
for-
out the nefarious from what is real and what is good is always what we strive for, I think.
Some good tips with that. If you are going to pay with a card at the pump or whatever, you go to a store, use the tap method with your phone or with the card. Don't put it in because they can actually hack it. The Target hack was done by a memory error that allowed them to like when people are swiping cards and inserting them, allow them to keep that. If you tap it, it's hashing it, so it's a non-repeatable number. Same. So like basically, that's the way you should be paying for things. You shouldn't be putting your card in unless you have to, unless there's an error or something. That's what they force you to do. And on the web, you should be using virtual cards. Like your card provider will give you a virtual card that you can assign and then turn off and on. They really will.
Good to,
and you can.
good to know. PayPal, that's what generally I use.
I use Stripe, and I use Credux, and they were just rebranded, but they're a large.
I've
very,
heard
very
of them.
Yeah.
I've heard of them, yeah. It's come a long way.
It's. I think it's become better. I mean, I think that the prices going up are obviously a kick in the pants to anyone, but I think that PayPal requires so little to sign up. I think that's what their niche is. They get you on, but they charge more. Like if you want to send person-to-person payments, Apple Pay and Google Pay are by far much cheaper.
Except you have to have people sign up for those too, and most of them haven't.
If you have an iPhone, you have Apple Pay.
Yeah, but a lot of people got Android.
How to add my phone number to their iPhone.
But or I can show you. But like Google Pay is something that used to be free. I love that. And imagine sending as much as you want, pretty much for free. And then this last year they added to the 1%. I think it's 1% fee. But then there's Zelly as well, which is through all the banks.
Well, and again, we're gonna have a little tinfoil hat party here. Google invested in a lot of these credit check websites simply to get the access to the credit data first party. And I feel the same way about Google Pay and Apple Pay for that matter. I mean, they're already so deeply embedded in everything. Now you're giving. I mean, I even saw somebody on a forum on one of the groups just a couple days ago saying that they were fine with Google knowing that they actually bought something online or offline, just so it would stop serving them ads for that item.
I'm okay with them knowing because I know they're going to figure it out either way. Like I work with a company that provides financial literacy to children, JASPE. It's a great company. They have to provide they legally have to collect some data, but only the bare minimum. And they don't sell it. But at the same time, Google's a different animal entirely, right? Google makes their money off of data collection and ads, and serving those ads to people that they've collected data on. I don't know, maybe it's because of my perspective in the industry. I don't mind it as much. Like it's annoying to see some ads, but I kind of am like, okay,
Well, and that's what I tell people. It's like, look, the only reason most of the stuff you're looking at for free on the internet is still free is because people like us are serving you ads.
Right.
Well, like Steve, look at this. I finally received this today. Okay.
Your telescope.
And that it's 9 days ago that I ordered it, and I'm sure that it's well over 100 times just on my Facebook stream that an ad for that item has been passed since I ordered it. Now, I can go up to the upper right-hand corner of that. It's just a little 300x. Basically, it's a spotter scope.
Oh, you had a hammer. I'm sorry.
No, it's basically a spotter scope. But the thing is, I can go up there and I can say, don't show me as many of these ads, and I'll still get the same ad.
Right.
Now, could they add an option in there? Don't show me this ad because I already bought the goddamn thing?
Would it be useful to them though? Like, do you think that? I mean, it would be useful to the person paying for the ads for sure.
Well, it would be, and it would be useful for Facebook too because they could serve you from different ad inventory then.
Yeah, something that I might buy.
Yeah.
Something that I might click on.
The other thing is they now know that you will click on an ad and buy something, which puts you in a different category of purchaser and viewer as far as your audience entity goes.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
It's just like when we're building mail lists. We have a very special mailing list for people who bought once and people who bought more than once.
Yep.
And that mailing list with the people who bought more than once is gold.
Yeah, you have impulse buyers that they see something, they have the money, they buy it, and you can categorize them and make a lot of money. Because they'll buy anything that's targeted towards them. Not anything, but most of the things. I think retargeting is probably one of the talking about paid, but targeting is definitely something most people should be doing if they're selling a product online. Just because it's so cheap and it works.
Yeah.
But I think that I was talking to one of my friends earlier today who does a lot of PPC, and he was telling me that Google Ads are going the way of not allowing you to even create the description anymore. They're trying to do it themselves. And that to me is, what do you do then if the ad doesn't perform well? Do you say, I would have said this, and then it would have hypothetically done better?
I've been playing with some of these dynamic ad creations campaigns, just out of curiosity, and it's really interesting because I get the feeling that their targeting for their dynamically created ads is different than the targeting for the ones you create.
Yeah.
Simply because either that or they're giving you a steep discount on the clicks. Because I'm running side-by-side campaigns with, hand created that we've been tweaking for over a year versus their dynamic. And within their dynamic always starts off super expensive. You just have to be able to ride that out. But over the course of like 8 to 12 weeks, those things really start to come in onto their own. But you've got to be able to be willing to spend that.
The machine learning gets a lot better.
Now the machine learning gets a lot better, unless they miscategorize you, and then it gets progressively worse, which is hysterical to watch. But I've actually, we've got one account where we absolutely refused to spend our monthly budget. It wouldn't. Nothing we could do could make it spend that whole budget. We added one of those dynamic campaigns to it, and not only did the dynamic campaign spend all of its budget, but now our manual campaign started spending all of its budget too.
Ugh.
How are those two things? It's really interesting. I would love to know what they're doing in the back end, because they're making some scary stuff happen.
Phil, you read any patents about that lately?
I have a question for Steve about that, and I'm going to have to jet around just about 4 o'clock. I've got another meeting, but it's so great to be a part of these discussions. It's a pleasure to get to meet you, Steve. I've never met you before, and it's like the pleasure is mine. And Thomas, and always loving Doc and Bill. And
Pleasure's
so
all mine.
It's great, but no buts here. I got PPC certified with Google AdWords in 2009. Obviously, it's expired a million years. But when it comes to dynamic campaigns versus manual campaigns, in your opinion, are you seeing the performance of your manual dynamic campaigns, your click-through rates and your conversion rates, your KPIs on your landing pages are better than your manual? Is that what you were saying?
Over time, they do at least as well. I've got one dynamic campaign that is actually outperforming our manual campaign.
Wow.
And but it's also very specific, because a lot of my clients, we can't track final conversion,
Right.
because final conversion happens offline. So it becomes a little weird. What we've noticed is, if you feed it the wrong goal, it will run weeds all by itself really quickly.
Yeah.
It's just,
I wonder if it's going into
horrible.
all the demographic information that it has, all the data that we don't actually have the access to. I wonder if it's attaching to that with the algorithm for the paid search. I mean,
It must be.
It's
Bill
we've
might
also
know
been
there's a
watching,
patent on it or something, but it's
well,
different.
we've been
definitely.
watching. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
No, what I was saying is the time during the day when the ads run becomes really, really peak and valley, where a standard campaign tends to be kind of capped at the ends if you're only running during the day or only at night or whatever. But they're dynamically altering bid prices on the fly. Our biggest issue is sometimes we see excessively high cost per click. I've seen, we've got one campaign that an average click is $12, and every once in a while we'll get a $200 click thrown in there.
I've
And
seen
those are
50
terrible.
and 100, and it's a lot. And is it worth that? What's the return on investment with that? It's just interesting to see the dynamic versus the manual, because I always and the algorithm must be reading it differently, because to see your click-through rates be just as good as your manual or equal to or better than, then they're hitting the landing page with the right audience at the right time with the right message. So that's interesting. That's almost a set it and forget it campaign.
Well, generally my click-through rates tend to outperform, just because I write better headlines and better descriptions than their algorithm does. And that's a side effect of having really good content on the landing page. The actual cost, and this is where it gets weird, because we've got, say we've got two campaigns run $100 a day budget side by side, and they both get 300 clicks, or one of them gets 300 clicks and 12 conversions, and the other one gets 800 or 900 clicks and 12 conversions. So why is the dynamic one running a cost per click of half the other one? Mm-hmm. So that's where there's a small, again, tinfoil hat part of me thinking they're giving a discount on the clicks on the dynamic side of things.
Well, they play both ends, so they can.
Yes, they're playing the game to get more people to do dynamic, because look, it's cheaper. And I'm just...
You set the price.
we set the price and we made it cheaper. Therefore, you should trust us more. And I just don't trust them. I've got too many experiences with them to trust them blindly like that.
You've been burned too many times.
You think this is also an intro where the prices will stay synthetically lower, and then as everyone converts over, then they go back to normal?
I think their end goal is to eventually do away with us in the middle, because you look at a lot of mom and pops who only have $300 a month or $200 a month. They can't hire me. They just can't.
You can't hire anyone, really.
They could go into Google and go dynamic campaign landing. This is our landing page. Here's my $200. Good luck. And I'm fine with that, because there are people who need to get into the market that way, but they're going to lose every single day to somebody who's got real money to spend.
Is that called AdSense still?
No, it's to remind me of the neighborhood liquor store that you've never been to before, and you walk in and you ask them how much a case of beer is, and they ask you how much you have.
They're taking up a lot of space on the SERP, guys. We all know it. 4 spaces on the top, 2 or 3 at the bottom. It is intriguing, and it is different on mobile. It's different, and so the algorithm. I don't know if is there one algorithm, Bill? I got to jet out of this, but is there one algorithm, or is there a mobile and a?
There's some things that Google doesn't talk about.
There's many.
There are plenty of algorithms.
It's like Fight Club.
Each of them is intended to solve a problem, but there are many that they just don't talk about. It's like the first rule of Fight Club: don't talk about Fight Club.
Yeah, and we're trying to reach all those algorithms, and whether it's local through voice or if it's through the desktop, we're trying to reach that audience. It's interesting to hear him Steve, to talk about dynamic, because I've always been about it. But it has actually been my pleasure. Namaste for all of you. I have to jet. I've got a client call coming on. But I'm going to connect with you all on LinkedIn, and hopefully if you're on Twitter, it would be my pleasure.
Or Twitter?
Okay, Twitter, I'm at Bravo Media One, and Steve and Thomas, I would love to connect.
Real
with
pleasure, Debbie. I've already tweeted out to everyone on here, so you'll see a copy of the show, and hi to like a little blurb on Twitter.
Thank you so much, Doc. Always a pleasure. Bill, thank you for inviting me.
Later, Deb.
Take care.
Good pleasure.
All right.
See you, Debbie.
Take care, guys. Good night.
we're at the top of the hour, so we've got to shut down too. So thank you
Good
all.
one, everybody.
Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone.
Have a good day.
Sorry I was late.